Hello, my name is Eeshwar and I'm 8 years old and I'm in second grade. Today I'm going to read this book called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, written by Judy Barrett and drawn by Ron Barrett. There is like this person holding a plate and I see there's a meatball bouncing off. Let's see what's inside. There's a bunch of meatballs and some spaghetti. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was a Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we each could eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. So they too are like saying that how much pancakes they can eat. And I see there is like a telephone here. Their mother is making orange juice. I see their grandfather there and there's a dog there. Seconds later, something flew through the air, headed towards the kitchen ceiling, and landed right on Henry. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed. Even Grandpa. Break was continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan and all of them were eaten. Even the one that landed on Henry. At night, touched off by the pancake incident, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts, and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. So if you break this town, it's chew and swallow. Like you chew your food and swallow it. I wonder why it's called that. What do you think? So I see there's like a big mountain, some cactuses. There's a sun rising or setting. There's a boat. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there was no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow, so they didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow and its weather, it came 3 times a day at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. There's like a dog. Maybe it's trying to get food like this man. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, and it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas. Sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. So there are mashed potatoes here, and there is green peas and pea soup, and there is some hamburger clouds. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would have even heard a prediction for the next day's food. So there is a prediction that it's going to be cloudy and there is going to be meatballs and there's soup. When the town when the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way, they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in the refrigerator in case they got hungry between meals. There is a bunch of pancakes falling on this taxi. There is a person here, if you can see, trying to get some pancakes. And there is a person eating like pie or something, I think. And these look like people that played in this game or something. Game called Account of Pie. So maybe it's about pies. Well, the food pie, not the number pie. So this looks like he's having an umbrella and there is soup in it. I don't know if he's going to actually eat that much soup. So it looks like he's giving some to his dog. And there is this lady trying to get 2 chicken wings in her plate that urgently. The menu varied. But by the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice and low clouds of sunny side up, eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast, butter, and jelly sprinkled down for the toast. Most of the time, it rained milk afterwards. So I see this boy trying to catch some orange juice into his cup. This person looks like he's raking the food. And he's eating sandwich and I see an egg sunny side up. For lunch one day, Frankfurt's already in their rolls. It blew from northwest about 5 miles per hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. The wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. So there's a bunch of hot dogs falling and I see it says Ralph's Roofless Restaurant, so it's roofless maybe because of all these holes. And there is mustard clouds, if you can see right here. And there is a lot of like sausages too inside the hot dogs. And I see there is some mustard on here. And this restaurant might be roofless because there is food falling from the sky and it can go there. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by gradual clearing with a wonderful jello setting in the west. So there is this jello as the sun and there are some lamb chops on the ground. I see some deers. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had rather an unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for people's flower gardens. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. The Chew and Swallow Digest Spaghetti ties uptown. Record breaking pasta fall causes chaos. Traffic snarled on lower intestine street. One day there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. The next day there was only broccoli, all overcooked. And the next day there was Brussels sprouts with peanut butter and mayonnaise. Another day there was pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew frequently, and awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long, and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There were white bread and rye and whole bread and wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread with rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help up, the people piled as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but just stayed there and got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream, cheese, and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves thick, and the day ended with a stomachache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The tornado was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up and there was no more school for the children. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. The people glued together giant pieces of stale bread sandwich style with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them and set sail on their rafts for a new land. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. The children began school to and the adults all tried to find new places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at the supermarket. They found it odd that the food was kept on shelves, packaged in the boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had been cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made out of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again, and nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his goodnight kiss. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for we ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. The end. So that's all that's there in this book. I hope you enjoyed it. I liked it. So it was a good book. I can say it's okay. Thank you.